Hey everyone, Mr. MC here. This is Guy for the 2021 Manufacturer Series Exhibition Round 2. Let's get this started. Take this first right turn flat out, and your first braking point is going to be at the 150 meter mark where the red area on the right starts. Brake hard for a short while, and as you turn in, slowly ease off of the brakes. Take advantage of this curb on the left. And depending on the car that you're using, you may want to do just a little bit of throttle control to bring a little bit of extra rotation for this right turn. Just try not to get past the curb on the left. Then take this right turn flat out if possible. And your next braking point is just as the grass on the left starts. Brake hard for a short moment. Carefully ease off of the brakes as you turn in. Get the car pointing where you're going to go, and then start to fully accelerate. And take your time bringing yourself to the right side of the track, and just as you pass these orange barriers that are on the right, you want to use a little bit of braking, and I'll show you where I start to brake. So I brake right around here. Just use a little bit of braking to bring yourself onto the curves on the left, which will help with the car's rotation. And if you do it right, you should be able to take the rest of the S's flat out. You're going to want to bring yourself to the left side of the track, and you're going to brake just before you reach the 150 meter board. Start to brake on the tarmac, and you're going to brake hard for a short while. Turn in at the 50 meter board and slowly ease off the brakes. Take your time accelerating, because if you're too aggressive on the throttle, you'll end up on the curbs, which will make you end up on the wall. This first chicane can be taken flat out. This second chicane can also be taken flat out depending on the car that you're using. Use the Marshall stand on the right as your turning point, and you want to be precise with this, because if you get it even just a little bit wrong, you're going to end up hitting the chicane to death. So after you dealt with that, just stay on the left side of the track, and your final braking point is before you reach the 100 meter board. So you're going to want to brake hard for a short while and slowly ease off of the brakes. Just try to bring yourself all the way to the inside of the turn, hit the curbs, and then start to fully accelerate. And this left turn can also be taken flat out, but that is all for the lap guide. Let's go ahead and take a look at the strategies. For this qualifying session, you're only going to have 5 minutes to try to get a good qualifying time, which means that you're going to have 2 chances to get the best time possible. And we are on a pretty low tire multiplier. It's a times 6, and we're using the racing hard tires, so they're going to last us a good while. And because this is the qualifying session, I'm going to have the brake balance at 2 to the rear, or +2. And I'll have it at a different setting for the race itself, which I'll mention later. And you're going to want to make sure you warm up your tires, because the racing hard tires, they do take a little while to get warmed up. So you can pretty much start to push from the moment that you gain control of your car. And if you can, try to be under someone's slipstream as you're starting your qualifying lap. And I say this because Drag Control Seaside has a lot of high-speed sections, and you're going to benefit a lot from being under someone's slipstream. Just be aware that if you're under someone's slipstream, do brake a little bit earlier, because you're going at a much faster speed than usual. And before I continue talking about the slipstream, for the final turn on your outlap, you can go a bit wide, and you're going to see the Citroen in the very front do that. So he's going to start the turn a bit wide, then bring yourself in for a late apex. And if you do it right, you can get a bit of a faster exit speed through there, which will help you on your first qualifying lap. And you only want to do that on your outlap. But going back to the slipstream stuff, so I started a bit too close to the car in front of me, and this is why you don't want to start too close to the car in front of you, because you will catch up to them, especially if they're not under any sort of slipstream, which means that you're going to have to end up slowing yourself down. You're going to end up hurting your own qualifying time, which means that you will end up hurting your starting position. So if you do want to take advantage of the slipstream, you want to bring yourself towards the edge of the slipstream zone, which is around 3/4 of a second behind the car in front of you. So let's go ahead and quickly summarize things. So you only have 2 chances to try to get the best qualifying time possible. And don't mind the brake flickering because I was hovering over the brakes. But anyways, take advantage of the slipstream if possible. And you want to make sure that you properly space yourself so you don't get too close to the car in front of you early on. For this race, we are doing 12 laps at Dragon Trail Seaside with the Group 4 cars. So the fuel is a ×3, which means that fuel will not be an issue. Even if your car is bad on fuel, it should not be an issue. The tire wear is a ×6, but we are on the racing hard tires, which means that the tire wear will not be so bad. And your goal is going to be to try to go for a no stop. So you don't want to pit at all, not even for a tire change. Don't forget that the recent update made the pit losses a lot longer. So this time you want to pit as few times as possible, in which in this case, you don't want to pit at all. And don't forget that as you start your race, your tires are going to be very cold, so you want to brake a little bit earlier than usual, especially for the first turn. And don't push the car too much on your first lap. Let your tires warm up, then they'll give you the grip that you want. And then from laps 2 and on, you can start to push a bit more. But I will say you can push to an extent because tire saving is still going to be a thing depending on the car that you're on and your driving style. So in my case, I'm in the Dodge Viper, so the front tires are going to be wearing out faster than the rear tires because the car is front heavy. So because of that, I'm going to bring the brake balance to +4 or 4 to the rear. +5 would work as well, but in this case, I wanted to try +4. It worked fine for me, but for others, +5 might be the better choice to go with. Once again, this is for the Dodge Viper. For any other cars, you want to first find out which tires are wearing out faster. So if your front tires are wearing out faster, bring the brake balance towards the rear of the car. If your rear tires are wearing out faster, bring the brake balance towards the front of the car. And you can easily adjust the brake balance along the race by pressing the left or right on the D-pad. You'll see the little multifunction display on the bottom right hand corner of the screen change around. One of them is the brake balance, in which at that point you can then press D up or down to change its values. And you actually saw me do that at the very start of the race, where I moved the brake balance from 2 to the rear to 4 to the rear. You actually see me just messing around with it right now. And you'll also want to drive as smoothly as possible. So if you can be a bit easier on the brakes. So you can see how I'm braking for this turn, just trying to be nice and easy on the brakes. Don't be at full braking for too long, especially with no one behind me. I can get away with that. And then just try to be a bit easier on the turning and on the throttle application. And I'm just going to be driving nice and smooth here. Just try to be easy on the car because there's no reason for me to start to push just yet. The other 2 cars in the front, they're pretty much pushing, and the slipstream is helping me keep up with them. So once again, there's no point in me joining the fight with them. I'm just letting them do all the fighting. They're going to wear out their own tires, and I'll just be over here just chilling. And speaking of slipstream is very important because as you see right now, I'm keeping up with them just by being under the slipstream. It's going to let your car go even faster, reach higher top speeds, accelerate even faster, but make sure that if you're under the slipstream of the car in front of you, make sure that you do brake a little earlier than usual, once again because you're going faster than usual. And also, do be careful right here on the chicane of death, because if you make a little mistake, you're going to end up hitting the chicane and your race will pretty much be over. So I highly suggest doing some lifting off of throttle. Just get the car adjusted, get it pointing where you want to go. Make sure it doesn't hit the chicane of death. It might cost you 1/10 because some people might be maniacs and try to go through it flat out, but I would rather lose 1/10 of a second making sure I get through it in one piece than risk it. And this will especially be the case as your tires slowly start to wear out, because you won't have all the grip that you want or that you need, which means that you will need to be even more careful as you go through the chicane of death, because if you're not careful enough, you're going to end up hitting it. So we'll skip on over towards the end of the race. So as you see right now, The front tires, they're wearing out faster than the rear tires, but they're not giving me any issues yet because I was taking care of them throughout the entire race. And yeah, so I'm not going to end up facing a big time drop off. All my times, I think they were in the 146s, except for lap 9, where I ended up getting a messy exit out of the chicane of death. But other than that, all of my laps would have been in the 146s. And if you're in a car like an all-wheel drive car or a front-wheel drive car or just a car with generally poor tire wear, you do want to drive as smoothly as possible to make sure that the tires that wear out faster don't end up suffering too soon. Once again, you just want to try to make your tires last as long as possible so that they don't present much of an issue towards the end of the race. But anyways, let's go ahead and cross the finish line, and then we'll show places to overtake and the penalty serving zone. So the main straight, perfect place to get overtake done, especially with the use of slipstream. Slingshot past them and then try to get past them before you reach the first braking zone. And try not to battle it too much, because if you start to get in a long battle, you risk losing the slipstream of the car in front of you, and you're going to end up losing even more time. This hairpin is a bit situational. If the car in front of you is really slow, you can try to get past them, but if they're going at the same pace as you, then just stay right behind them. This part right here also situational. If they're going slow because their tires are worn out, you can try to get past them, just make it quick. But other than that, if you guys are going at the same pace, then just stay right behind them, as this is more of a single file line section. But this part right here, from here towards the hairpin coming up, this is another place where you can try to get the overtake done. You actually saw that a bit earlier in the race strategies part of the video. And then for here, you want to be in a single file line, because if you go 2 wide, if you go 3 wide, if you battle through here towards the chicane of death, you're all going to end up hitting the chicane of death, and you're all going to be very mad at each other. Just save the battling for this part after the chicane of death, because this is another place where you can get a good overtake done, especially with the help of the slipstream. And we just reached the final turn, and then here comes the main straight. Once again, another great place, probably the best place to get an overtake done. And you might have missed where the penalty serving zone is. It's actually after the first hairpin, so it's hanging out right over here on the very top of the track map. And if you have a penalty, you'll be serving it there, as this track only has one penalty serving zone. And that is pretty much it for this guide. Once again, this is a zero stop race where taking care of your tires will really help you out in making them last the entire race without much of an issue and stay under the slipstream. But that's all from me. If you want to support me, you can leave a like and a comment on this video, and you can click the subscribe button, you know, all that good stuff. I do have a Patreon and the YouTube membership thing if you want to check it out, and the links down below. And the best way to support me, especially for this upcoming mini race and the daily race coming up this week, the best way to support me is to not hit the chicane of death. But anyways, that's all from me. I'm going to sign off now. So this is Mr. CA wishing you a good race, and I'll see you in the next video.